أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا الحمد لله كما ينبغي لجلاله ولعظيم سلطانه وصلى الله على أشرف الخلق وعز المرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيد الخلائق أجمعين أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين سفن النجاة وعين الحياة من طهرهم الله بنص كتابه المبين وجعل اللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We have reached the last 4 verses in Surah Al-Fajr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsu al-mutma'innah, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah, فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Inshallah, our discussion for tonight is in 3 points. In the first point, we want to give a small introduction about the soul and the different levels and powers of the soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. In the second level, we want to speak about the commanding soul and the self-blaming soul. And then in the third point, we mention or we give 6 steps to struggle the self, to struggle ourselves. So we start, inshallah, with having the correct intention of attending for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wa bi barakati as-salati ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. What is the soul? The soul, or an-nafs, is the essence of man. It is the reality of the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this nafs, created the soul, and He gave it this body as a tool to use it. Because we live in a material life or a physical world, we need a material body. This body is only a tool that is used by the soul. When it comes to Arabic, we have 2 terms that usually people use. We have the term an-nafs and we have the term ar-ruh, 2 terms. A group of scholars, they believe that an-nafs and ar-ruh have the same meaning. So we translate both of them to what? To soul, an-nafs. It's just a different name for an-nafs. This is a group of scholars. Another group of scholars, they say no. They say ar-ruh is different than the nafs. They say an-nafs is the soul, while ar-ruh is the spirit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed inside of us. But however, this group, they failed to agree on one definition for ar-ruh. And they failed to give us one definition or a common definition about ar-ruh. Why is that? Because for us, a human being, it is impossible to comprehend the reality of the ruh. It is impossible to comprehend the reality of the spirit. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي وَمَا أُوتِيتُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. Which means, and they ask you about the spirit. In the Quran, they translate it as soul, and that's wrong. They ask you about the spirit, say, the spirit is from the affairs of my Lord, and mankind have not been given of knowledge except a little. So are we able to find or to reach the reality of this spirit? There's no way to reach the reality. Why is that? Because this spirit is nothing other than the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us. And as we mentioned in previous lectures, that this power is not for us. This power is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is wrong to say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this power and it is our power. We don't own this power. As we mentioned, we can't own ourselves. We don't own ourselves to own the power. This is the power of Allah that is inside of us. So it's impossible to know the reality of it. But to understand the difference between the soul, the spirit, and the body, we can give an example to make it easy for us to comprehend it. We can say that the body is similar to the car. The body is similar to the car. And the soul is the driver. Now, if you put a driver in the car, for him to drive the car, he needs what? He needs petrol, correct? He needs power to drive the car. The spirit, ar-ruh, the spirit is that power that enters into the body and makes this reaction between the soul and the body, for the soul to use the body. So for the soul to use the body, it needs what? It needs power. It needs a power. This power is the spirit, ar-ruh. Now I can raise my hand. I take the decision to raise my hand. When I say I, what do I refer to? To this body? No, I refer to what? To the soul, because it is the essence of the man. It is my reality. I is not this body. This body one day, it will disappear. When I say I refer to my soul. I raise my hand. I take this decision. But through who? Through which power? Through the power of Allah. Through the power of Allah. I take the decision to do the action. But I cannot do the action away from the power of Allah. It doesn't make sense to say away from the power of Allah. There's no power away from Allah. There's no power besides the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't accept what, for example, some non-Muslims, the Christians, believe that there's the power of Allah and then there's the power of the devil. And there's the kingdom of Allah and there's the kingdom of the devil. That doesn't make sense. There's only one power, which is the power of Allah. So that's the difference between the soul, the spirit, and the body. Now, some of those who refer to themselves as Islamic mystics, they claim that the soul and everything is part of Allah. Wal-'iyadhu billah. They say that everything, including the soul, is part of Allah. They give an example. They say this creation is similar to the wave that comes out from the river. Correct? They say what you see around you is nothing but an optical illusion. It's just an images that you see. But in reality, the wave is nothing other than what? Other than the river. The wave, yes, it goes out from the river. But in reality, it's what? It's just a river. So they say everything is part of God. This belief came or started by the Hindus. So Hinduism, they started with this belief, and then some Sufis, they came and they made it sound as if it's an Islamic belief, and they called it Wahdatul Mawjood, that everything is one. From what I understand, no one from our scholars accept this concept. No one at all from our scholars accept this concept. What we believe, that the soul was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's not part of Allah. Why is that? Because as we mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does he have a physical body? Does he have a physical existence? So nothing can be part of him, part of Allah. Now, when it comes to the soul, we have 4 powers for the soul and 3 levels. Don't get scared in front of the, if you come across a difficult term or a difficult word, don't get scared in front of it and just stand and stop thinking about it or try to understand it. No, there's no term or there's no knowledge that is hard if you have the ability to sit down and think about it. So now if we mention the terms about the soul, the different powers of the soul and the different levels, although it might sound a bit hard, but we're going to explain it in a very simple way and in a very easy way without going into detail of the topic. We just want to get the message across. So when it comes to the soul, we have 4 powers. The first power is al-quwwa al-aqliyya, the rational power. The second power is al-quwwa al-shahwiyya, the desiring power. The third power is al-quwwa al-ghadabiyya, the anger power. The fourth power is al-quwwa al-wahmiyya, the imagination power. Now, I made up the names. Allah knows if they are correct or not. So we have the rational power, we have the desiring, we have the anger, and we have the imagination power. That's the four. We shouldn't look at these powers in a negative way. There's a positive aspect to them. We were speaking with the brothers last night about evil. I said that there's nothing that has complete evil. There's nothing that has complete evil. There's a positive side in everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. And these powers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, although they might sound a bit negative, from the anger power, from the imagination power, from the desire, it might give a negative aspect to them, but we have a positive side. For example, through the desire, al-quwwa al-shahwiyya, through the desire, through the lust, we ensure the continuance of the human race, for example. That's a positive side. Through anger, we can defend ourselves. If we are faced by an enemy, faced by someone who is trying to attack us, we defend ourselves through what? Through the anger power. And also through the anger, al-quwwa al-ghadabiyya, through anger, we can put limits to our desires. Putting limits to the desires can be done by the anger. Imagination, through imagination, we can invent new things. We can come up with new things. Now, following the powers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, the rational power, the anger, and the desiring power. We leave the imagination. So the rational, the anger, and the desiring power. Through these three, we reach three levels for the soul. Through the three powers. The first level is an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', the self-commanding soul, or the soul that commands to evil. This is the first level. The second level, an-nafs al-lawwama, the self-blaming soul. And then the third one, an-nafs al-mutma'inna, the reassured soul. For tonight, we're going to speak about the first two, an-nafs al-ammara and an-nafs al-lawwama. For an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', the commanding soul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, inna an-nafsa la'ammaratun bis-su'. Indeed, the soul, it commands the human to perform evil or to commit evil. When the desiring power, now we use the powers that we mentioned, when the desiring power overcomes the rational power, when the desiring power, it overcomes the rational power, and when your anger power cannot put limits to your desires, then your soul will start asking you to fulfill all the desires that she asked for, or that it asked for. We shouldn't say she, it asks for. So all the desires that the soul asks for, you start trying to fulfill them. Why? Because the desiring power, it overtook the rational, and the anger couldn't put limits to it. And we find that in some communities, this soul, the self-commanding, or the commanding soul, an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', we find that it is glorified and it is praised by certain communities. For example, we hear a lot of communities who say, especially to the youth, they say to them, live in the way that you want. Think in the way that you want. Do whatever you want. You are free to do whatever you want. You are free to experience whatever you want. You are free to choose whatever you want. So they glorify this self-commanding soul. Is there limits? They say, no, there's no limits. There's no limits. There's no boundaries for you. You can do whatever you want. This is praised. What we are witnessing today in this country, when it comes to voting for the same-sex marriage, it comes under the self-commanding soul, an-nafs al-ammara bis-su'. Why would people vote yes to it? Why would people vote yes to it? Right? Does it go against our religious beliefs? Yes, it does. Does it go against our human values? Yes, it does. Why people vote yes for it? Because the self-commanding soul. The self-commanding soul. When there's no limits, now I don't want to judge. This is being recorded. I don't want to judge. But I want to ask, where are the limits? Do we have limits or not? A few years ago, the same-sex marriage wasn't something accepted by the community or acceptable by people, accepted by people. But after a few years, it became something normal. If there's no limits, if there's no boundaries, maybe in the future, sibling marriage will become something acceptable too, right? Well, there's no limit. If the humanity accept it and people accept it and will say it's their choice and it's their freedom and they were born like this and they were born with such feelings, right? All the hormones of them, or Allah Alam what they come with. So there's no problem with sibling marriage. So where's the limit? This is what I'm asked for. I'm not in a position to say do this or do that, or to say that this is halal or this is haram. No. I'm not speaking about it from a religious perspective. I'm speaking about it to ask where are the limits? Where are the limits? That's what we should ask for. Because the commanding soul, it makes you stay away from all limits. It makes you destroy all the limits. And in history, to go back to history, because it's safe to speak about history than speaking about the present. To go back to history, we'll find that some people, for the sake of money, for the sake of power, they sold their religion. They sold their religion. Why? Because they had an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', the self-commanding soul. For example, they mentioned that Khuwayl ibn Yazid or Sinan ibn Anas, alayhim la'inullah, both of them. After Karbala, they came to Ibn Ziyad with the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada, salamullah alayh, with the head. And one of them, he said to Ibn Ziyad, he said to him, املأ ركابي فضة أو ذهبا إني قتلت السيد المحجبة. He said to him, fill my pockets with gold and silver, I have killed. I'll translate it as the Lord. Fill my pockets with silver and gold, I have killed the purified Lord. We can use the word Lord to refer to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. There's no problem in it. They knew who Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was. They knew that he is the infallible. They knew that he is the Imam. They knew that he is the son of Amir al-Mu'min alayhi salam, the son of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. But with that, they killed him. For the sake of what? For the sake of money. This is the self-commanding soul. The second level is an-nafsul lawwama, the self-blaming soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ الْلَوَّامَةِ. He says, and I swear by the self-blaming soul. This is the second level of the soul and the first level in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first level in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to have a self-blaming soul. What is the meaning of al-nafs al-lawama? The self-blaming soul. The self-blaming soul is where you stop and think before committing or before doing any action. And after doing the action, you stop and you think, especially if you committed a sin. You stop and you blame yourself. This is an-nafsul lawama. You start blaming yourself. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Why did I do this sin? You start blaming yourself. And you try to change. And you start trying to change what you did. Because as we said in the previous lectures, we are not infallibles. We commit mistakes. We do wrong things. We commit sins. But the door is open for us to ask for forgiveness. The self-blaming soul is where you stand and you start asking yourself and you start struggling yourself. You start to struggle yourself. The Prophet ﷺ says to Ibn Mas'ud, Ya Ibn Mas'ud, أكثر من الصالحات. Increase the good deeds that you perform in this life. فإن المحسن والمسيء يندمان يوم القيامة يعني. He said, because the one who performed good deeds and the one who committed sins, both of them will regret on the day of judgment. Both of them. How? The Prophet ﷺ said, يقول المحسن يا ليتني ازددت من الحسنات. The one who performed good deeds, he will say on the day of judgment, I wish that I did more good deeds to raise my level on the day of judgment. ويقول المسيء قصرت. As the one who committed sins, he will say, I failed in the life. وتصديق ذلك قوله تعالى ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. And this verse, ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة, and I swear by the self-blaming soul, it explains the meaning that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned. To give an example for the self-blaming soul. Yesterday we spoke about Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, Ridwanullah alayh. Let's continue using him as an example for the self-blaming soul. We said that Al-Hurr, on the way to Karbala, he oppressed the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And he even prevented the children of Imam al-Hussein to drink water. In Karbala, Al-Hurr was standing and thinking. He was standing and thinking. A man next to him, he said to him, are you scared? He asked him, are you scared? Because he looked as if he is scared. He said to him, you are one of the brave soldiers that we have in Kufa. Are you scared, Ya Hurr? He said to him, no, by Allah, I'm not scared. But I am thinking between myself. I am thinking, what should I choose? Should I choose hellfire or should I choose paradise? Should I choose, which means that, should I choose to stand with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and fight and end up in paradise? Or should I stand against him and fight him and end up in hellfire? Do you know what made Al-Hurr Ridwanullah alayhi change? They say in Karbala, Imam al-Hussein was speaking to him, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was speaking to Al-Hurr, and he said to him, ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ يَا حُرْ. Imam al-Hussein said to Al-Hurr, ثَكَلَتْكَ أُمُّكَ يَا حُرْ. Yani, may your mother lose you, O Hurr. Al-Hurr looked at Imam al-Hussein. He was silent and quiet for a moment. He looked at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He said to him, Ya Hussein, by Allah, if anyone from the Arabs mentioned my mother, I wouldn't leave before mentioning his mother in a bad way. But what could I say? And your mother is Fatima bint Muhammad. When the name of As-Siddiq al-Kubra, Sayyidatul Wujudi alayha salam, was mentioned in front of Al-Hurr, he changed. He changed from a self-commanding soul to the self-blaming soul. From a nafs al-ammara to a nafs al-lawama. The name of Fatima alayhi salam. On the other hand, you have some people who, they said to them, in the house is Fatima. He said, even if in the house is Fatima. This is the difference between al-nafs al-ammara bis-su' and al-nafs al-lawama. This level, the self-blaming soul, al-nafs al-lawama, we refer to it as the struggling of the soul. Mujahadatul nafs, the struggling of the soul. Where the servant tries through it to purify his soul and to purify his reality, because the soul is the reality of the human being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and the soul and He who balanced it. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, yani He inspired it with the ability to do good or the ability to choose the wrong. All the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down, He sent down to the soul, not to the body, not to the spirit. He sent it down to the soul. This soul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave it a free will to test it in this life. He said, yes, I created the soul, I give you the power, that you have a free will between choosing between what is good and what is bad. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. You have the ability to choose. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. He has succeeded who purifies it. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And he has failed who filled it with corruption. So you have the ability to do wrong or to do right. No one can force you. But if you end up doing wrong, then you will fail. قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And if you stay away from the sins, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. This is jihadul nafs, that is considered the major jihad. The major jihad. The minor jihad is easy, or it's easier than the major jihad. Why? Because in the minor jihad, you are fighting your enemy, and usually from the enmity that you have towards your enemy, it becomes easy to attack him or attack them. But when it comes to the major jihad, who are you fighting? You are fighting yourself, and it's not easy. It's not easy to fight yourself and to fight your desires. That's not easy. They mention Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He says, روي أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله بعث سرية فلما رجعوا قال, the Prophet صلى الله عليه, he sent a group of soldiers. When they came back from the battlefield, he said to them, he said, مرحبا بقوم قضوا الجهاد الأصغر وبقي عليهم الجهاد الأكبر. He said to them, blessed are those who finished from the minor jihad, and they are going to start the major jihad. The soldiers were wounded, were tired. They said, Ya Rasulullah, what is the major jihad? He said, Jihadun nafs, to struggle yourself. This is the major jihad. Now we can mention few points or few steps to show how to struggle ourselves and how to become part of the major jihad. If we understand the difference between the nafs al-ammara bis-su' and the nafs al-lawama, please raise your voice bis-salati ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So inshallah we mention 6 steps. The first step, we can struggle ourselves through piety. If you look at all the letters that the Imams alayhim salam wrote for their Shia, you'll find that all the letters they started with wa usikum bi taqwallah. I advise you to fear Allah, to be pious, because piety is the foundation that we can build on it the whole religion, and we can build on it the whole movement. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, إنما هي نفسي أروضها. It is myself that I struggle. Why do I struggle myself? He says, أروضها بالتقوى لتأتي آمنة يوم الخوف الأكبر. He says, I struggle myself through piety. Why? So I can protect myself on the day of judgment. Protect myself through what? Through piety, through being pious. Piety is not something that we only perform publicly in front of people. And we shouldn't only be pious publicly in front of people. And when we are alone and away from people, we become from the friends of the shaitan. And we forget something called piety. To be pious, to be a true follower of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, you have to follow the teachings of Islam wherever you are. Even if you are alone, even if no one is looking at you, you have to follow the teachings of Islam. This is what piety means. Piety means to be in the places that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes you to be in, where you are fulfilling His commands, and to stay away from the places that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes you to be in. This is how Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam explained at-taqwa. This is the first point. The second step, reflection. To reflect, to think. Before you want to do anything, before you want to say anything. Unfortunately, when you speak on the minbar, we don't practice this point, to think. Sometimes we get emotional and we mention a few things on the minbar. But try as much as you can to think before you speak. Think. Sit down and think. Should I say this? Is it something good or is it something bad? Is it going to help or is it going to cause more problems? Before I want to go anywhere, before I want to do anything, let us sit down and take time and think. Don't rush. Because most of the mistakes that we do, most of the sins that we commit are based on rushing, going quickly, doing quickly without thinking. And after we commit the sin, we sit down and we think, we start thinking. And what did we do? The third step is self-accountability, muhasabatun nafs. Muhasabatun nafs is one of the most important principles that, or spiritual principles that Islam emphasized on. One of the most important spiritual principles that Islam emphasized on. We have a lot of narrations a lot of ayat, a lot of verses that speaks about muhasabatun nafs, self-accountability. Even some scholars like Sheikh Al-Kaf'ami and Ibn Tawus, Radwanullah alayhim, they wrote books, separate books about this topic, muhasabatun nafs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu attaqullah. Fear Allah, O you who believe, fear Allah. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. And let every soul, whether it's a self-blaming soul, what else? Self-blaming, what else? What's the first one? Commanding, the self-commanding soul, the self-blaming soul, or the reassured soul. Wherever you are, in any level you are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the meaning, and let every soul look to what it has put forward for tomorrow. Wattaqullah, again, and fear Allah. Inna Allah khabirun bima ta'lamun. Allah is aware of everything that you are doing. What did we mention in Surah Al-Fajr? The verse, Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Inna rabbaka labil mirsad. Indeed, your Lord is in observation. Allah can see everything. Allah can hear everything. He knows what's inside of us, what's our intention. He knows everything. We can't hide anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't hide anything. So if we think about this point, we can change a lot in our lives. Imam al-Qadhim alayhi salam, he says, لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُحَاسِبْ نَفْسَهُ فِي كُلِّ يَوْمٍ. The one who does not do spiritual accounting, or he doesn't do accountable every day, is not from us. He's not from among our followers. He's not from among the true followers of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. فَإِنْ عَمِلَ حَسَنًا ازْدَادَ اللَّهَ شُكْرًا. If he finds himself, when he sits down and he look on what he did during the day, if he finds that he committed something wrong or something good, then he thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He thanks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings that he gave him. وَإِنْ عَمِلَ سَيِّئًا اسْتَغْفَرَ اللَّهِ. And if he finds himself doing something wrong, then he asks forgiveness from Allah. This is very important. Every night or any time a day, have a special time to sit by yourself and to think. Now you want to call it meditation, you want to call it whatever, reflection, reflecting on yourself, thinking, any name you want. The names are not important, true or not. What is important is to sit and think. To sit and think. لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَمْ يُحَاسِبْ نَفْسَهُ. He is not from us, the Imam alayhi salam says. Sit down and think. For example, before you go to sleep, what did I do today? Start thinking about what you did all day. And put down the good things that you did and the bad things that you did. And try to change yourself. As we said, from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He kept the door open for us to change and to modify ourselves and to improve ourselves. Then, the step 5, let us attend or try to attend the gatherings of the scholars. This is one of the ways to struggle ourselves. Try to find a pious and learned scholar and attend their gathering. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, عَجِبْتُ لِمَنْ يَرْغَبْ فِي التَّكَثُّرِ مِنَ الْأَصْحَابِ كَيْفَ لَا يَصْحَبُ الْعُلَمَاءِ. He says, I wonder about those who seek to have friends, or a lot of friends. Why don't they try or work to become from the friends and the companions of the scholars? But what scholars? Any scholar? No. Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, he says, Al-ulama al-alibba al-atqiya. The scholars who are wise and pious. Those who are wise and pious. Alladhina yaghnam fada'ilahum. The one that you can benefit from their good attributes. وَتَهْدِيهِ عُلُومُهُمْ. And you can be guided through their knowledge. So if you can find a scholar that you can benefit from his good attributes and you can be guided through their knowledge, inshallah we'll go together to him to benefit from them. The last step is to concentrate on salat. We mentioned last night to pray on time. Now we want to concentrate on salat. You should know that concentrating in salat is one of the signs of believing. True or not? Not everyone who prays benefits from his salat. The ayah says, "Inna as-salata tanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar." Indeed, prayer prevents immorality and wrongdoing. Does everyone who pray stays away from wrongdoing? The army of Yazid, they prayed before they started fighting Imam al-Hussein. Ash-Shimr alayhi la'inullah, he prayed the dhuhr before he killed Sayyid al-Shuhada alayhi salam. To concentrate in your salat, to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your salat, can help you to struggle yourself. Look, today, when we stand to pray, we start thinking about hundreds of things. True or not? We start thinking about different things. Let's compare between when you're sitting down watching a movie, for example, and between salat. Sometimes when you are watching a movie, or watching a soccer game, or a footy game, or even sitting on WhatsApp and typing, someone might talk to you, next to you he might talk, and you don't even hear what he's saying. He's right next to you, you don't hear what he's saying. True or not? It happened with all of us. Why? Because you're concentrating on WhatsApp, you're concentrating on the game, you're concentrating on the movie. You don't hear anyone. But when we're praying, if my neighbor speaks to his wife, I hear what he's saying. True or not? Why is that? Because I don't concentrate on salat. One of the signs of the believers is to concentrate. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Certainly the believers have succeeded. They who are during their prayer humbly submissive, who submit themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they concentrate on the salat. This is very important. Tonight is the night of Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. And for the blessings of the majalis, forgive me Sayyid, let me mention something about Ali al-Akbar salamullahi alayhi, to get the blessings of serving Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi for a few nights. One of our scholars, Allama al-Tustari, rahmatullahi alayhi. Allama al-Tustari, he was the student of Al-Mazandarani, rahmatullahi alayhi, a great scholar who lived in Najaf. He's originally from Iran. Allama al-Tustari, rahmatullahi alayhi, he says that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he was close to death 3 times next to Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. 3 times his soul was close to leave his body next to Ali al-Akbar salamullah alayhi. The first time when Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam came and he asked permission from his father. He went out on his horse, and the woman and the children came around Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam, crying and telling him, "Don't break our heart. Come down, Ya Ali al-Akbar." They say Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he walked away and he started crying. But he didn't want the children to see him crying. So he kept turning the other way. Then he called his son Ali al-Akbar. He said, "Bunayya ilayya ilay, come to me. Come down from your horse and come to me." They say that Imam al-Hussein, when Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam came near to him, he smelled his son Ali al-Akbar. And when he smelled his son, his soul was going to leave his body. This is the first time. The second time is when Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam came back wounded, and he said to his father, "I am thirsty." How hard it is for your children or for your son to come and ask you for water, and you don't even have enough water to give for your son. They say Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he hugged his son and he cried because he couldn't do anything to him. This is the second time that Imam al-Hussein, his soul was going to leave his body. But the most difficult time was the third time. They say the third time Imam al-Hussein was sitting inside the tent with Sakina alayhi salam. And suddenly he heard the voice of his son calling him, "Assalamu alayka ya abata, ya abati adrikni, come and help me, come and protect me." Sakina alayha salam, she says, I looked at my father and I saw him looking at the roof of the tent, and his eyes are rolling as if his soul was going to leave his body. Then Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, they say he wanted to stand up. He stood up to go towards his son, Ali al-Akbar, with all the companions. Imam al-Hussein used to run to them. Even with Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, when he fell down, Imam al-Hussein, he ran towards his brother. But they say when he stood up to go to Ali al-Akbar, Sayyid al-Shuhada, he fell down to the ground. Three times he tried to stand up and he fell down to the ground until he managed to go and see Ali al-Akbar alayhi salam. They say Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he slept on the ground of Karbala and he kept looking at the face of his son Ali al-Akbar. Until Zainab alayhi salam, she felt that her brother Hussein alayhi salam is still next to his son. So what did she do? She decided to cover her face and to go outside to the desert of Karbala. This was the first time that Zainab alayhi salam leaves the tent. She went outside calling, Wa Aliyah, wa ibna akha, wa shahida, wa madluma. When Imam al-Hussein heard his sister Zainab and the voice of Zainab, he ran to Zainab alayhi salam and he said to her, return back to the tent. Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka sayyidi wa mawlaya ya Aba Abdullah al-Husayn, wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ika wa anakhat birahlika. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وما بقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.